All right, so it's the weekend and it's the end of the month as well. So this month, it's a good idea to check up on the monthly chart. So this month closed back in this range, and what that shows or what that means is that this is a stop hunt. Again, the market will look for liquidity. This right here is a large liquidity pool because you can see that there were several tops here. 1, 2, 3 different months had their tops around here. So this obviously was a large liquidity pool. So the market will look for liquidity, which it did, and closed right back in the range. Now I'm still thinking, my thoughts are still that we're going to the upside on this dealing range. However, once there's a liquidity pool, it's very typical of the market to grab it and then run against it, at least to put all the breakout traders in here, because there are some people that have breakout orders to keep buying, to put them in some misery. And also for those who sold and had their stop losses above this double top and have still not taken profit for whatever reason, this will have taken them out. So what I think is next on this monthly chart? On this monthly chart, after liquidity, another thing that the market would like to do is to fill up imbalances. So if we're looking for the market to fill up any imbalances, this right here is an imbalance on the monthly chart. And also, if you look in here, this is also another imbalance. So you already know what this is. I don't need to tell you. You already know what this is. This is a balanced price range. So on the monthly chart, this would be a logical place for the market to come into. And at the moment, this is about 300 and something pips. So we are basically almost 400 pips, which is possible, obviously, in a month, because this month that just closed had a span of about 529 pips. So it's possible that we might have bearish movements into this zone. So I'm going to keep this and keep an eye on it and set alerts on it. And then we're going to the weekly chart. The weekly chart also is quite interesting in the sense that, like I said, the market will always look for liquidity, fill up imbalances, and always go to fair price. So if we're going to use that logic on this weekly chart, this was a liquidity pool, equal lows, where the first leg was in May and then the second leg was in July. And these were equal lows on the weekly chart. And look at how the market came and took that liquidity and ran it to the other side. Okay, again, taking breakout traders, activating their sell stops, and also the buyers that had their stop losses below this double bottom, this raided them. So basically this killed two stones with just this killed two birds with just this stone, and then ran their stops to the upside. Initially I was having a dilemma as to if this was a double top, because this was perfect equal lows and this is an imperfect equal highs. So this is a relative equal highs. But again, the market did the same thing here, or is doing the same thing at the moment. It has raided these highs, taken out the liquidity, and has closed back in the range. So that tells you that this was a stop hunt, right? The same way, this also took out liquidity and closed back in the range. Look at where it closed, right back inside the range. And all of this was just, extra inducement before it kept going. So this tells me now that we might have a new dealing range on the weekly chart. Although not confirmed, a new dealing range will make sense from here to here. It's not been confirmed on the weekly chart, but I will go ahead and put that there. Okay, so I will go ahead and set up a dealing range here, right? And although it's not been confirmed, but it looks very likely already. Where this is my 25, this is my equilibrium, right? So the market is likely to go back to equilibrium and into discount perhaps, and then this will be my extreme discount here. And you can see how it lines up perfectly with these dealing ranges. You can see it lines up perfectly. You can see how this discount lines up perfectly with this balanced price range in here. Okay, so like I was saying, I feel like it's a bit premature, but I'm just going to put it out because these are the things that I'm expecting. So because we close back into this range, then it makes sense to go back into fair price, and this is fair price. And if you're going to fill up imbalances on the smaller time frame, then this is an imbalance that is likely to be filled up, and that's from the monthly chart here inside of this area here. Now also on the weekly chart, if I take this out for a moment, on the weekly chart too, there's this area here. This balance price range is also here. So I'm going to, at the time it was a measuring gap. I know there's a lot of story there, but I'm just gonna drag it out, because this right here is another important point that the market can come back to fill, because an imbalance and the market can come back to retest. So that is what I think about this this weekly chart. So this is going to be my dealing range high on the weekly chart. So the point now is, or the good thing about this now is that it kind of gives me a framework to work within, that okay, this is what I'm working, these are the areas I'm working within. So right now we're in the premium end of this dealing range, and if we see sell opportunities, then we should take them. So now I'm going to move this guys here, and this stands at premium and this stands at discount. So I would always have a visual to help me know where I am on the weekly chart. Okay, so that said, this is going to be my dealing range low, of course, because this is where that started from. Again, this is still a bit premature, but it makes sense at the moment. So if we go into the daily chart now, if we go into the daily chart here, let me move this here so I can see very well. Now the daily chart here, this is also the same dealing range, so I don't need to keep any of this here. I don't need to keep any of this here on this daily chart. So let me move them first before I do anything else. So let me move them first before I do anything else. Let's move you guys here. Okay, good. Because I had already done this before for the daily chart, but now that I look at it, well, the daily chart is more confirmed, but because I've already put it on the weekly chart and it's still the same coordinates, I'm just going to leave the weekly one on. So that said, what are we looking out for next? Coming into this new week, right? If I'm still bearish coming into this new week, then this area here becomes an area to balance, right? And this right here are the only parts that I have. These are the most balanced parts of this market here. So it will make sense to see price come into these areas here, not more than a consequent encroachment, and find resistance in here. And if it does, then we'll get a good move into these zones to the downside. Now, in my opinion though, yeah, again, this is another balanced price range here. This is another balanced price range here. So depending on how the week ends, I'm just gonna draw this maybe for like 2 weeks. Yeah, so these are the areas to look out for while coming down these stairs, to see how price reacts around these areas, and that would also give lower time frame balance price ranges. All right, so if we get into the 4-hour charts, let's go to this one again. Let's see. There's something I don't think I finished with the daily properly, so let's go back to the daily to see if there's anything I did not see. So again, liquidity taking. Now on the daily, this double top makes more sense, right? Relative equal highs make more sense. So liquidity taking, imbalance to be filled here and here. So these are the next magnet prices, and a good launch pad to be from here to these magnet prices. This is just a fair value gap, not exactly an imbalance. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to delete that because I don't need it right now. And then this is equilibrium from the weekly chart or from this range. So we'll see how that's going to hold. Yeah, that's okay. So this all of this makes sense. Did I leave anything out? I don't think I left anything out. Okay, good. So we go into the 4-hour chart. Now on the 4-hour chart, if you're gonna refine this a little more, you see this balance price range I saw from 2021. You see how it was actually prominent. So it found support here, found support here because it didn't close below, and then the only close below, it found resistance here twice before dumping. right? This is why you have to have like a situational awareness of the higher time frames. Although on the 1 hour I still found resistance here, which I didn't take for some weird reason. I felt like I was over trading. No, I took this one. I took this one in the morning. Yeah, I took this one in the morning. It came back to it later, and then there was another one somewhere in here. Anyways, we'll get to that. We'll get to all those points. So now this right here is a liquidity void. Okay, so I put it at gap close. So because this was a gap from the previous week, right? So this was a liquidity void that I also expect market to come into. However, coming from Monday, if we're going to have a bearish week, right? So usually the anatomy of the market is like this. So if we have a candle, and because of the fact that we're anticipating a bearish week, so if we're going to have a bearish candle, for example, right? If we're going to have a bearish candle, so the week is going to look like this. We are going to have wicks, right? We'll have wicks here, and we'll have another wick here. Let me take that. So we'll have this wick here, and we'll have another one here. So what does a bearish week mean? A bearish week means that the market will open here and then trade up first. Now it's in that high that it trades up to that we should find reasons to sell, so that we can be in this body going into the week, to the end of the week, and then sometime on Friday we'll have the market retrace for a close. Okay, that's pretty much how the anatomy of a week is. If you look at the current week that we're in, it was a it was a bullish. Well, it ended as a bullish candle, but again, you had it ended as a bullish candle, but let's say it was a bullish candle. We had our open low. So if you bought at this low, you would have had a very good run to the end of this high, right? And found reasons to close before you came back to that close, because you're not supposed to be in the close anyway, and that will have been a 200 pip run. You're not supposed to be in the close. You're supposed to take your profit at the maximum points. So back to this guy here. Where's that box? Wow, that box is missing. Interesting. All right, so back in here. So if we're looking for a bearish week, right, this is what we're looking out for. The market closed here, so any open that trades up in here would be very welcome, right? Any open that trades up here will be very welcome. And for me, another very good place to look out for would be here. Okay, this on the 4 hour is a 4 hour balanced price range, so it also coincides with that daily balanced price range. Okay, so on this daily one, I can dim this one just because I want the 4 hour to be clearer, because the 4 hour is likely, well, again, I'll still see when it touches this daily, and I'll see if it touches this 4 hour. But these are the areas I'm looking out for, because again, what does price do? The market will look for liquidity and then go back to imbalances. So this is the balance range. Just going to retest it and find maybe resistance there, likely, and then keep dropping to the downside. All right, is there anything here? So these are like obvious targets. You need to look at this liquidity void, look at this daily, look on this daily balance price range, look here too, and probably fill this up as well. It depends on how it goes, but again, if that weekly range makes sense, then this is the likely place to come into. Now on this 4 hour too, this is a very, very, very good one. Now on this 4 hour chart, we have a dealing range that we can also work with, and that dealing range starts from here to here, right? We have a dealing range you can work with, and that dealing range starts from here to here. And then it's time to bring all of you guys back. It's been a long time. We saw you. This is why I like to leave these things on, because I will need them later, and I know that I will need them later. Let me zoom in there so that I can pick them up very well. So pick up this, and this, right? And then we'll move all of them here, because now this is where their duty calls. I don't need this dealing range high because I already have that, but on the 4 hour, we've closed below the 25 clearly, right? So this is it here. Anyway, I'm going to come back to that later. All right, so this is the 4 hour. So on the 4 hour, we have a dealing range from this extreme low to this high. So again, this is our extreme discount, extreme premium, and then this is equilibrium. So in the event that on the 4 hour chart in the event that on the 4-hour chart we don't get into these, weekly and monthly targets, this area here would make sense. Now, this is obviously going to be equal highs or relative equal highs in the future, but for now, because of the weekly profile and the monthly profile closing back into this range, this is the higher probability, in my opinion, this is the higher probability trade that we're going to take. So this right here, for being a single spike, this is likely to be a continuation dealing range. So I expect price to eventually go and take out this low and continue to the downside until we find reason to start coming back to the upside. Okay, and this area too on this 4-hour chart here, now this is looking very cumbersome, but if you follow the video from the start, all of this will make sense. So this is the monthly balance price range, and if I take it out of here momentarily, right, if I take it out of here momentarily, what's this okay, now if I take it out of here momentarily, this is also a daily balance price range. Okay, and this being a daily balance price range, you can also make a case for why this can be relative equal lows. But also in here, we have equal lows here. So it's also possible that, this is a draw on liquidity eventually. So if this is a continuation, now this is projecting too much into the future, but this is just the logic for why I would, I'll find reasons to keep going to the downside. All right. So this is what we're looking at on the 4-hour time frame. Obviously, there's this gap that would make sense to be filled, but again, it's not a balanced price range completely, only because the daily and the 4-hour have balanced price ranges in these areas here. So it depends on what the market does, but these are the areas to look out for and expect bounces off. Then we come down to the 1-hour, which is what I like. Now, this past week was a bit funny for me because now Monday opened here, right? Monday opened here. I didn't trade anything on Monday because nothing made any sense. And then this gap is still there, right, on Monday. And technically, this is where this gap should even be starting from, because this was where it closed here. So, anyways, now this was Tuesday. So Tuesday London session, we caught this move. Me and my friends in my group, we caught this move. I caught it just to here. I should have held it forever, right? And then later on, off of this balance price range here, I caught this move here, right? This right here was at the end of New York kill zone. I caught that move. Off of this balance price range, we caught this sell. I tried to buy here, and that was obviously the wrong call because there was a rejection block that I did not see initially. I can take this off now because I don't need it. There was a rejection block that I did not see initially. And then on Friday, we caught this sell off here. I don't need this here. Okay, let me go to the 4-hour and take it off. I don't need that. Just on this. Okay, good. Come back in here. So I don't need that. Good. So on the 30-minute chart, this was a balanced price range which we caught in London. We caught this sell, and because again this is counter trend, all these pullbacks can happen, and because we spend a lot of time counter trend trading, we are used to taking profits very early because of these type of things. But when you now understand context, it makes a lot of sense why that, because what I mean is that when you're in a buy program, you can see that if you buy, there's that fear of price coming to take you out is not as pronounced as if you were in any of these sales, because if you sold here, this threatened you. If you sold here, this pullback threatened you. You sold here, this pullback threatened you until where we are now. So that's the difference between trend and counter trend. But the thing about counter trend is that you spend more time in counter trends. Like this counter trend now can take up to 3 weeks before the proper trend will resume. So you would spend 3 weeks in all of this. Your brain gets accustomed to these things, and then when trend comes, because you're not used to the trends. You're not used to the trends doing. You're not used to not closing early. You're not used to not protecting yourself. Things like that. You tend to miss out. I'm trying. Okay, yeah, this is 25. I was just trying to understand where that line came from. So this is the 4-hour 25. So that any pullback into any of these areas, and maybe ultimately this 4-hour 25 gives us more impetus to want to hold down to the 4-hour equilibrium. Okay, you see how this makes sense, right? So that's basically what I'm looking out for next week, right? I'm bearish, and I'm looking at the possibility of starting the bearish program from here, and then we'll see how the rest of the week goes. Very important to look at the calendar. Next week is the first week of February, so that's NFP week. So let's see. We have ISM manufacturing on Monday, so this is a New York session, late New York session news events. Any trading should be done by this time, I'm sure. Tuesday, this is Australian dollar, not our problem. And then we have another late New York session event. Shouldn't be a bother. Then on Wednesday, we have ADP non-farm payroll, which is okay. It falls within the times. And then we have another late New York session. And then on Thursday, we have, monetary policy. So if you're going to trade in London, be careful and get out of your position before this time. I mean, if you want to, be frisky and risky or whatever, you can try and hold this, but I don't exactly advise trading in news, or I don't have balls large enough to trade in news yet, and I'm not going to lie about it. So this is monetary policy for the GBP, monetary policy for the euro, and then unemployment claims at 2:30, and that's it. And then on Friday, we're going to have NFP on Friday by 2:30 p.m. and then there's another late news at 4. So it's a lot. I'm going to also show something. The last time there was GBP monetary policy, it was this guy here, and at the time I was still like fresh. I was still learning balance. I was still learning DRT newly, but look at how it aligned. It aligned very perfectly on that day. So this was a balanced price range here, and then London session found support. And obviously, you see, this is 10 a.m. our time. Normally by 11 we'll be done, but because it was waiting for news, it spent the whole time accumulating, and it was waiting for that GBP news. And this was monetary policy on that day, 18th of December, right? If you think I'm joking, let's go and look at it. The previous time, or the history, the last time was it was 18th of December. Why is it not showing up here? Let me see. Yeah, 18th of December. Yes, no. The last one was 18th of December. So this is it. So this was it on the 18th of December here. Right. This was it. And then there was CPI right after. You can see how it literally just followed it up. Literally, it followed the market structure. So it's the same thing. I mean, I kind of expect the same thing to happen depending on what happens on that day. But I do not advise any trading of news. Okay, again, this is not financial advice. This is just my personal opinion. I think we're done here. So have a good weekend. Make sure you rest, make sure you sleep well, and I'll see you guys next week.